Coming to you live. The baddest radio TV talk show around.
My better, my better, my better, my better, my better, my better. We got everything politics on the screen. We got everything media TV screen. We got everything politics on the screen. My better, my better, my better, follow my better. Introducing your host and co-host,
Kevin Nicasiva.
Hey, it's Tuesday, June the 30th, 2020, and this is My Better Half, live from our studio home, and I'm your host, Kevin.
And I'm your girl, Casiva. And you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Better Half with Kevin Casiva. But this is our show called Unplugged, because we're doing it from home.
Hey, during the month of May, we did a show on COVID-19 and how it might affect the country and the Black and brown communities. And since then, we've opened the country, and we've had massive protests in the streets of America. And now the CDC is projecting an alarming increase in coronavirus cases in the US. And so we thought we would probably bring this show back because we were worried about us having a second surge, but we haven't even got out of the first one. And right now, Texas is under guard right now because things are kind of getting out of control. So we're coming up on the 4th of July weekend. And without the unified guidelines, cases probably following this weekend could surge to 100,000 per day, predicted by the CDC. So we wanted to do a show again on this pandemic because it is really affecting our Black and brown communities. So we wanted to bring on an expert so that you can get real news. A lot of times we don't have the news that affects our community. We have somebody else narrating it. So we wanted to bring somebody who speaks your language, who can tell you face to face what's going on, because we are so out of touch because we don't see it, we don't believe it. And now I think some people are recognizing because their parents, their aunt, their sister has gotten it, and unfortunately people have passed away. So we need to get a hold of this news-wise and don't follow the hype that people are trying to feed us right now. So we brought in today on our program
The former director of the Dallas HHS, and he is no other than Mr. Zachary Thompson, and he's always out there in the community trying to educate us on what is really going on. So welcome, Mr. Thompson, back to the show.
Yeah. How you doing?
Y'all always on target, so thank you for the invite and look forward to discussing COVID-19.
Yes. You know, today it was, I was looking at the news and they had started talking about, I know my husband's gonna go a different way, but I want to get my question out of the way. They were talking about how the young people just going about their business, don't even think about the COVID-19, because they said, one of the young people said that they don't even watch TV, they don't watch the news when it comes to the COVID-19, because they don't know what to believe when it comes to that. So they don't even think it's real. And that kind of like, it shocked me a little bit, but then it didn't. But because I can understand, what do you think? You know, do you think it's real? Do you think it's not real? Because you don't know what is real anymore, because some people say this, some people say that. So to get our young people educated on COVID-19 so that they can realize this is real, this pandemic is real, it's nothing to play with. So can you tell them how real this is?
Well, when I appeared on your show before, I want to be very clear. Y'all have been on target, as I stated before, about getting the message out. The problem is that the people who are speaking are not actually in the community, and they would listen. And I don't think we really have challenged our policymakers to actually be in the community to really educate. So let me give you an example. The first time I was on the show, we talked about COVID-19 and how deadly it was. And it went from those high risk categories, those with medical conditions, senior citizens. Now you've seen the shift now to our younger population. The difficulty in this is that they're going to say most of the time the younger people may not die, even though we've seen numbers. I want to be clear with people who didn't have underlying medical condition, who were young, who passed away. But I want to go old-fashioned public health. The problem is the problem is that you want to make sure that you're educating in the community through our community-based organization, through our churches. This is key. And that's why I always refer to the CARE Act funding, because there are
We're gonna have to take a quick break.
Okay, let's take a break right quick. And we think we lost connection, and we're going to come back in 1 minute.
Ooh, ice cold. Freeze pop.
Are you looking to lose weight, detox your body, build your immune system, and boost your metabolism? Or do you lack energy throughout the day? Maybe you need more focus and mental clarity. Or maybe you're just looking to find ways to combat against health issues such as anxiety, headaches, muscle and nerve pain. Well, TLC is the place to be. And if none of those pertain to you, I'm here to tell you that everyone should be detoxing, no matter who you are. I'm Eudora Barnes, a personal distributor with Total Life Changes, and our products are just that, life-changing. Contact me today and let's discuss the various products containing hemp extract that are available in assisting with becoming a healthier you. The number is 469-783-4046. You can also email me your questions to eudorabarnes@yahoo.com or follow me on Instagram at Heiress of God, and that is HEIRESS_of_God. Talk to you soon.
Hey, we're back. We're sorry about that. We lost our connection with Mr. Zach Thompson, but we want to give him a moment to get reconnected. And while we're doing that, what we were discussing before we left, we were talking about our young people who are having a problem with some of the information that's been given out. When we first started this thing, when the pandemic came, it started as a hoax. People saying, well, it's a hoax or it's the flu. It's not that serious. And then there was some messaging out there that said that Black folk couldn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was messages out there that young people couldn't get it. And so over a period of time, we've seen all those myths, go down the toilet. Now it's not a hoax because over 125,000 people have died. And you almost have 10,000 people worldwide that have cases of coronavirus. And now we found out that black folk are not immune.
Not only that, the kid's not immune.
Right.
Baby's not immune.
Right.
Because now they've been showing different symptoms of the kids where they getting like little red infections on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
And so they saying that is part of COVID. These different little signs now. And so it's not just adults. These are like 8-month-old kids.
And it's serious because when you talk to people one on one, I was out and about today, and I saw guys out there didn't have masks on, and talking, and they were only a couple of feet away from each other. And so when we go out and we see people doing that in clusters, and I think that's what caused our surge again. And so now they are trying to uh, go back on reopening the country. And so now a lot of people are kind of rebellious now because now, they are going up and down, and trust is not something that people are really confiding in now.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody mistrusts everything. They don't trust politicians. They don't trust officials. They don't trust the police. They don't trust anything. So every man is doing what they talked about in religious time. Everybody's doing what is right in their own eyes. And that's not going to be good for a worldwide pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see if we've got Mr. Zach Thompson with us again. One thing about this pandemic, everybody's doing stuff from home, and I think there's an overload on our internet because everybody,
Mm-hmm.
that's all you can do when you're at home.
Yeah.
So we're going to see in a few minutes whether we can get him back and get a better connection. Okay.
So there he is. Can you hear us, Mr. Thompson?
I see him, but
I don't know if he
not there.
is.
But we'll let our mechanics do their job. But while they're doing that, we are coming up on the 4th of July weekend. After the Memorial Day weekend, we had a surge because beaches were open, restaurants were open, some of the places of worship were open, and people, I know they were bored, at home, and they were tired of being isolated in their homes. And when we went out without rules. Some people obeyed rules, and some people didn't. Mm-hmm. And so when we went out without rules, we had some tension. And so some places, you could dine in without a mask, and some places you had to have a mask. And so with that misjointed information, it caused some hostility. And then on top of that, we started having protests. And I think the protest is, we don't know what is going to pay in dividends later on, but I think the protest is going to have a significant role in the surge of this pandemic. And so we're going to see if we have Mr. Thompson back. I don't know if we do or not.
Can you hear Zach?
I think we're getting close. Let's take another break, and let me see what our producer is going to do with Mr. Thompson and get our connection back. So we'll be back in a minute.
Older adults and people of any age who have serious underlying medical conditions may be at higher risk for severe complications from COVID-19. This group includes people 65 years and older, people who live in a nursing home or long-term care facility, and people of all ages with underlying medical conditions, which include those with chronic lung disease and moderate to severe asthma, people who have serious heart conditions, those with severe obesity or a body mass index of 40 or higher, people with diabetes, those with chronic kidney disease undergoing dialysis, and people with liver disease, and people who are immunocompromised, including those going through cancer treatment, smokers, transplant patients, those with poorly controlled HIV or AIDS, and those who experience prolonged use of corticosteroids or other immune-weakening medications. If you're at higher risk for severe illness from COVID-19, take actions to reduce your risk of getting sick. Have supplies on hand. Take everyday precautions like washing your hands with soap and water. Avoid travel. Stay home as much as possible. Avoid all cruise and non-essential travel, and have a plan for if you get sick. If you have symptoms like fever, cough, and shortness of breath, call your doctor. Call 911 if you have emergency warning signs, including difficulty breathing, persistent pain or pressure in the chest, new confusion or inability to wake, or bluish lips. To learn more, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19 or coronavirus.gov. Let's work together to protect ourselves, our families, and our communities. Thank you.
Oh, I remember.
Okay, we're gonna get this thing together. We're working on it. It's the internet, technical difficulties.
Technology.
Yes. And we're gonna continue our discussion as we get Mr. Thompson situated. Um, from our last, oh, there he is. From our last break, we were talking about the coronavirus in our Black and Brown community. So since we have Mr. Thompson back, we'll continue that thought.
Well, and I think y'all have been on target in getting the message out. The young people will listen, but we have not taken the message to the young adults. Mm-hmm. And so they're just like we were. They feel that they're invincible. And so how we're going to get the message to them, that is key. You can't do the traditional television. It takes what y'all are doing, what Esther Davis is doing. You have to go out to the churches. You have to go out to, and even go out, we used to go out to clubs. When we did HIV, STD prevention, that's what we did. We went out to those locations and you do education. We have not done that. So I can't expect them to do any different if we haven't lent ourselves to educating them and being where they are. For us to chastise them for being young adults, okay, how many times were we criticized by elders and we still went out and did something wrong? So, I mean, they're no different than we are. Now we're dealing with the pandemic, but we haven't got the message to them. I've seen it. I'm in South Dallas. I'm in North Dallas. Wherever I'm going, if they're going to hang out the bars, they're young adults. They're going to do what they do now. But the question is, what are we doing? The numbers are not that alarming to them because the people who are dying are actually older. Now they're seeing younger populations, but it's just not going to resonate with them because we're not out there meeting them where they are.
So then how do you think we supposed to get this message to them? I mean, we trying to get it to them, but how do we get it to them? Because I know they see the news, channel 4, 5, 11. I know they see that sometimes, and I know they see how they, when they open up. First of all, do you think they opened up the state too fast? Do you think that's a contributing factor?
I think it definitely, okay, so here's the dynamics. You shut it down quickly, but you didn't start in January getting it. You shut it down in March. There should have been discussion in January where we were going with this. So you shut it down and the economic situation impacted. So they had to open back up. Did they open up too soon? Only time will tell. It appears that okay, Let me be real clear, because everybody always talking about the scientists. Let's be clear. Have they found a cure for the common cold?
Mm-mm.
No.
You can
No.
still take the flu vaccine and still get the flu, correct?
Right.
Okay. What? Why do we believe that they're going to have a cure for COVID-19?
Well, I don't think they're gonna have a cure, because one thing they're doing, they're taking the gloves off. The regulations. They
Right.
just say, hey, just fly through it. Don't worry about the testing. Just come up with something. Come up with something that sounds good, and we can say, we're making some strides against it. But what I think happened is, since you're putting this in chronological order, since you're going back to really the end of 2019, and when it was first, told
Right.
to the United States, you're going in chronological order. But when you talk about young folk, we did have some distractions. We had a protest that made coronavirus take a back seat.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Well, we had a situation where a man had a knee on his neck,
Right.
and that generated consciousness in our community, and people went out. Our young people went out. But let's look at it, and you hit on an excellent point. The fact that they were out there, and a lot of them had on masks, and they didn't. We're seeing the cases go up. But who's to say these cases were not eventually going to go up over the period of time? So herd immunity is what you do with immunization, meaning that the more people are immunized, you're able to stop the spread of measles and other child-related diseases. And so with this particular situation, you'll hear scientists talk about herd immunity. We have not reached the herd immunity. People have to get this particular virus, and it has to build the immunity. And we're going to have to do this without a vaccine. So the young people are stronger in a sense. I'm not going to say they're 100% going to make, everybody's going to live through this because they're young. But I want to bring this back in perspective. Did they open up too soon? Yes. But here's the question. When were they going to open up? Can you keep a population locked down for 2 years or a year and a half until you get a vaccine? And then let me be real clear. We were not totally locked down. Many corporations designated their employees as essential. So it was never a shutdown. I want to make sure that we're clear on it. It was never a total shutdown. And then lastly on this, you went to a key point. Where was the testing? Because testing, you would be able to carve out those individuals who have COVID-19, who are your super spreaders, who are asymptomatic, and you will be able to do the contact tracing to be able to reduce the number of cases. There has not been widespread testing without criteria. They are testing you with criteria. Now let me clarify that, because there are some churches in the African American community. I want to commend those ministers who are doing it on their own. They do it 1 day a week or 2 days a week. I'm saying any facility that is doing testing should test everyone that is pre-symptomatic or asymptomatic, so you can be able to identify those individuals who are the super spreaders. The problem is the super spreaders are walking around and no one is doing the contact tracing. So your point about did we open up too soon? Yes, because you didn't have the public health infrastructure to address contact tracing and testing in our communities.
Okay. Now, United States, most of their economy has to do with mass assembly. You got a whole sports industry, that has to do with you have an entertainment industry. You have a religious industry that
Mm-hmm.
has to make their living in mass gatherings. And so there were people who really kind of in power that were losing money, losing revenue, because they could not make a living, because they make a living on mass gatherings.
Correct.
So, and to one of your points, I heard something out there. It's some sort of suggestion, but it's way out there. Like you were talking about the young people, and they were saying the young people would get it but then they will recover. So they were talking about isolating the older people and let the young people go out there and get it and recover, and they have antibodies, and then give it to the older people, and then we can rid this thing and everybody be immune. Somebody came up with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But the thing about it, that's the herd immunity. But here's where we focus on. This country was built on, well, let's just take it from a cultural standpoint. When someone dies, a loved one dies in our family, it is very heartbreaking. And now you limit the number of people who could actually go to a funeral during the lockdown. There's no closure in this process under COVID-19. But African Americans still went to funerals, even though there was limited numbers. People worked a way to have people at funerals because these are loved ones. Not only is the industry focused on economics, our culture is focused on a family culture that likes to get together, Hispanic populations. So when we look at this particular virus, let's be real clear that this virus is going at the core of what we all believe in, which is family connectedness, as well as the economics of what we see in the nation. But I got to make sure I'm real clear. When I go down Second Avenue, when I go down Malcolm X, I'm seeing people without masks still today. I'm seeing people going into places to get, even though it's mandatory, and you can do all the mandatory you want, but people are going to act this way because people don't want anyone to tell them what to do. But I'm going to go back to January. I know we hear it now, but I'm going to say this: it wasn't a clear message in January. It wasn't a clear message in February. It wasn't a clear message when we locked down in March. And so, why do you think these people now are saying we don't know what to believe? And we're in the 7th month of this pandemic, and there is no end in sight. So as a human, we have to get to a point that we like to go outside, we like to talk to our neighbors, we like to go to places, and nothing real. Okay, they still had the grocery stores open, right? They still had the liquor stores open, correct? And they had companies who had designated their employees as essential. So what really shut down?
Well, I think people shut down. I'll say, for instance, my house, nobody comes over here.
Right. Yeah.
I'm really, selective about who comes here because I don't know where you've been, and a lot of people, have done that. But I think what's happening when we can't touch each other,
Right.
that's a whole another thing. When we can't touch each other,
Right.
I think that kind of, as far as our spirit of, I don't know, fellowship or something, we get antsy. We get antsy. We can't do that. And so right now we have space guard. Space guards that I got, gloves on, got 6, feet away from this person. We just saying hi. There's no shaking hands. There's no hug.
No interaction whatsoever.
And if somebody's bereaved or something, it's just that you just speaking to touch somebody.
Yeah.
So we're in a whole different, we're in a whole different situation. But like I was talking about mass gathering, they're talking about starting school. That's education. Education is mass gathering.
That's good.
Right.
So if they shut that down, not knowing, because I think what's happening is, like you were talking about the CDC being silent. They were silenced for a while. And when you start talking about the schools and education, people are not saying anything. They're just looking like, I don't know. But they don't hear anything. And that is silence. And they throw them kids back in there and find out those kids can contract that, we're going to have a serious problem.
Well, our teachers, that's what's going to be the impact. The teachers, the administrators, you may not even have school can reopen, or if it does open, you may have to shut down because those kids could possibly spread it to those adults. So that's really what the issue. Now, we've seen a couple of scenarios. There was a 17-year-old in Lancaster that passed. We don't hear anything more about that. And I believe there was a report where a 12 or 14-year-old passed, and we don't hear anything about, there was no more information about that particular death. So we're So now you can understand why the young people are not taking this serious, because even today, it's not about whether 45 wear a mask or not. I think most people would care less if 45 wear a mask. I think what we got to look at is nobody's listening locally because no one is talking about it other than what you two are doing, and what Esther is doing. And when you look at it, who's out there drum with the drum major to say this is going on in our community? So I don't expect anybody to listen because we're not taking the message to them. Have y'all looked at the zip code? I send out something to Esther every week. If you can click on your zip code and see the number of cases in 75216, for example, 75216, which is going to be a mixture of Black and Hispanic, there's over 400 cases of COVID-19 in that one zip code.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Report. So when you look at what's going on, we can say the young people are not listening. Most people are not listening because no one is taking this serious, other than the fact that you're risking. And I want to make sure we really zero on this. And that's good you're not letting anybody come into your house. Because I don't want a doctor to make a determination on whether I get a ventilator or not.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Right. That was it too.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
scary.
key. As an African American that goes into the hospital, and there's no disparaging on the health profession. I'm just saying, I'm not gonna say they don't do that. I don't want to put them to the test. So my
Right.
Yeah.
point is, because if you got so many ventilators, and what we've been seeing is the question goes up to a board or some kind of committee, not your doctor, who will decide who gets on the ventilator. And
Mhm.
then what about the trial medicine that are being administered? Well, I get that. So I'm saying I go to the doctor all the time. I just did my physical, but I'm gonna say this: I'm in my chart where I go through my test result. When I go into the doctor's office, we're having a conversation. He's not going to just tell me what my test results. I've already read my test results and I've looked at them. So now, while I respect the expertise, I'm at an advantage because I'm looking at the same data he's looking at. And I said that to say this: we're not looking at the data, and the data is saying, in terms of African Americans to date, there are 83 African Americans who have died in Dallas County. There are 1,400 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Dallas County. If you extrapolate that and put Tarrant County, if you put Harris County, you have a number of African Americans in the state of Texas that are impacted by COVID-19. But it's
Mm-hmm.
only people like yourselves who are getting the message out.
Right. When they closed everything down and they closed restaurants down, when they reopened them, they said that we're going to follow the guidelines. And so when they were well, some of them, when they had people in, you could see them, you know, resanitizing areas.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I was saying about schools is that you can say you're sanitizing something, but you're talking about clusters of kids. When the bell rings, the rail that you just wiped, 50 kids touch that rail
Right.
coming back down and go to class. And then when the bell rings again, 50 kids touch that rail again. And then when the bell rings again, 50 kids touch that rail. They can never do that in school because those kids they're not thinking about, they're not programmed and trained to do social distancing or,
They're not.
or
Not at all.
or not to touch high spots,
They're not.
you know,
No.
because, you're talking about toilets that they have to press, doors they got to open going into the restroom. You're talking about one person sits in this desk and then goes to another class, another person comes right in and sit. You're not going to come and sanitize all those desks. Teacher's
Well,
not
why?
going to do that.
Why? And they're washing their hands. Yeah, they're not going to do it
See, I
thoroughly.
teach. I see the thing about me. I work in a nursing home. I teach cross contamination.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be able to do that. And I'm not scaring people about sending their kids to school. But I'm just saying they're going to have to come up with some guidelines for these kids to be safe in school because
Well, let me
if
give
it
you
ever gets
let me give you an example. We can wear a mask, but we've seen transmission happen through the eyes. So when a person sneezes, while your
right,
nose and mouth may be covered, your eyes are not.
right,
And I got a question for you. You know, they're talking about doing this contact tracing, is it
yeah.
called?
Yeah, that's what I've
How
been talking.
how do you how do you explain to me that, say for instance, if I go out there and I contract it and you say, well, can you tell me where you've been and do you know who you've been around? Well, if I've been to, say if I go to Walmart or something and all them people in Walmart, I'm not gonna be able to tell you who those people are. So how do they plan on activating that process where it can be accurate?
Well, here's the key on contact tracing. Now, and this is an old public health guidelines. They use it for HIV, they use it for STD, they use it for TB, they use it for any communicable disease. So, for example, if you go eat at a restaurant and you get sick and you get food poisoning, you're right, it's difficult, but they'll ask you the name of the restaurant. They'll go to the restaurant, do the inspection, and if they can get, and then they try to look for other people who may have come in contact at that same restaurant for food poisoning. So let me give you an example on STD. They'll ask a person who was their partner. Person say, I have 5 partners. They name the 5 partners. In this particular case, you're saying who have been your close contacts. Inside Walmart, which is a large group, you're right, that's going to be difficult. But if you've been in a close contact, that's where they're really looking at the contact tracing. They couldn't do all of Walmart, but let's say you went to church and you would have to say that I was around 20 people at church. That's where the contact tracing comes in. And that's what I stated earlier. If I test positive, then I'm looking at the contact tracing because that's critical to reducing the exposure. But let me jump even ahead. Even if you positive for COVID-19, if you went to go get a test right now, what are they going to tell you to do? They're going to tell you go home for 14 days and see if you
Mhm.
have any.
Right.
That's all. Okay. So what I'm trying to show you is the contact tracing though. If I came in contact with the three of y'all, then I need to be able to say I came in contact with Kevin and Carl, but I might be the super spreader, or Kevin, you could be the super spreader. Having contacted you, you're able to come in and get tested. You don't show any symptoms because you're asymptomatic. But if we let you keep going, you could spread to 100 people. That's where the contact
Right.
tracing.
And that, you know,
Exactly.
but what I'm saying is that's the follow up. I'm talking about how long did they know I was asymptomatic?
Right.
That's the problem. Because I can
Well,
come in and get tested, and you ask me the day before who you come in contact with, but I might have had this 2 weeks.
right. But that's why we go with, okay, that's why on your show back in March, I said we should test everybody. That's the problem. You got to
Right. We don't have
test
to test.
without testing everyone, and you're gonna lose. This is why we're in the state that we're in now, because you're not testing everybody. And why, they set up at Ellis Davis, they set up at different places. I'm having a real problem with you setting up for symptomatic when everyone needs to be tested, and they didn't do that. So that's where we are now. That's why we got the cases we have.
Well, I really believe what we heard a few weeks ago, where they said, you know, president said, slow down the testing. Now
Okay.
you admitted on TV, but that process might have been going on for the last 2 months.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this: if they could ramp up and get ventilators, they could ramp up and get testing. Every American should have got tested regularly. So you gave an example in the nursing home. Why do we have outbreaks? Early on, people who were working in different nursing homes, who were staff, worked at the different nursing homes, and they might have been the transmitter. It could have been a family member. But I'm gonna go to my point. Everyone should have been tested, And if I came to your house, you should want me to be tested. You should want to take my temperature. That's the thing that's the new norm that we're in right now. When I volunteer on Thursday, they take my temperature to see, and then I could be asymptomatic. And so I need to
Right,
be honest with myself. How am I feeling?
right. And that's all they were doing in nursing home. They were taking temperature. That didn't really mean anything. You could have had a headache or something else or something else.
Yeah.
One person had a fever because they had
A urinary tract
yeah.
infection.
Hmm.
But what I'm saying is that didn't tell you anything. But a lot of times in those institutions,
Mm-hmm.
those women that work as CNAs, they
Hmm.
work two nursing homes.
That's right.
They work a side job at Walmart.
Right.
But let me ask you something, Mr. Zachary. Do you think? Because I'm trying to think, like he said, that one young lady had a urinary tract infection. So how accurate do you think these tests are that they're doing? Are they? Do you think they're real tests, or do you think they're? I don't know. But how accurate do you think those tests are? Because, like you say, you can get a false positive because somebody have a different infection,
Mhm.
and then you saying they got COVID, but then they don't have COVID.
Well, you can get a false positive if you, yeah, first of all, I had a problem with the fact that you're doing the test yourself. And then, so there's been some challenges with the test,
Right.
but the problem is no testing. Yeah, that's another issue because
Right.
it be a quality testing. But that's why we have 600 cases. I looked at we'll have 1,000 cases one day in these counties because you still got to do the testing. It has to be done properly, and the quality of testing was never there. Okay, first of all, let me go back to make sure we're all on the same page, which we are. But I want to make sure we're clear. Why do I believe the same system that told someone they had bad blood and gave them $10 is telling me the truth today?
Right.
So I'm just saying, at
But,
the end of the
but,
day,
but the other thing, Mr. Thompson, me is this: whenever there is two things happens in a pandemic or something that's catastrophic. One is capitalism; people capitalize on it, and the other thing is they flood the market with counterfeit.
mhm,
And that's what happens with some of these tests because it's reported that some of these states that purchase tests, out of the country or with some other manufacturer and found out that the test was fraudulent. It wasn't doing it. You almost had to do it 3 times before you could find out whether you were asymptomatic. And so they just you know threw all of it out. So whenever that happens, sometimes you have to have when that happens, you have to have a government seal on something or somebody is designated to make this, it's like money. You got to have a seal on it that say this one here is official. If not, you're going to have counterfeit everywhere. And counterfeit brings up
I,
mistrust.
and I agree. And I heard one scientist say this famous statement when they asked him a question about COVID-19. He said, we don't know. It's a lot of things we don't know. That's the most honest answer anybody has
Mhm.
said. Even with the
Mhm.
testing, it's a challenge. They rushed it. Okay, so I always have to bring the history in. They rushed everything out in
Mhm.
January and February. And so no one is challenging anyone to be accountable, but the impact is on the Black community because we fit the high risk category. At the end of the day, I'm gonna wear a mask, but when they said don't wear a mask, I was wearing a mask because the mask is the only way you have to protect yourself. Don't go around people. Well, that's a challenge, but I'm going to try to deal with the safe distance. But your point about the testing and the testing material, we know we're faulty, but who challenged them? That's our taxpayer dollars that went out. I always bring up every week with Esther Davis when I write this. Where's the CARE Act money going? There's a lot of money, and I think I said it on y'all show the last time. I've never seen $1 trillion checks written in my lifetime. And they just giving out money and they're getting these contracts out to people, but no one is holding them accountable. So that's our fault because we should be challenging not the see, we focus too much on the governor. There's a the federal agency is HHS. And I gotta say this if I never get a chance to say anything else on the show. 30 years ago, you didn't have as many African Americans in political power. HHS is a federal agency. We don't have to ask permission. We should tell them what we want. That's what I'm having a hard time digesting. Is that whether it's the testing equipment, whether it's testing in our community, whether it's doing things in terms of education or care dollars, I'm having a hard time that we can say Black Lives Matter, but it don't matter to us to tell them to do something in our community. The same knee that was on Mr. Floyd's neck is the same knee that's on us with COVID-19, and that both of them will kill us.
Right. You know what they did? I'm gonna tell you what they did. Whenever there is something like this here, we find out what we can do. Okay. They built a hospital in a week
Right,
in New York.
right,
They built a hospital in a week.
correct.
It may have been a temporary house, but they built a hospital in a week.
They built one here and tore it down. I mean,
And
they
tore it
said,
down in a week. You know, and I'm talking about they could have taken that money and you would have clinics where people in the community don't have to go across town,
correct,
you know, because back then, you know, you would have a doctor in your community that used to do house calls,
correct, correct.
you know, and he knew everybody in the community. So when the community widened and spread it, they didn't spread the healthcare. And then, especially with black folks, they had to rely on, you know, hocus pocus remedies. We couldn't go to the doctor because of racism or segregation or something like that. I remember getting sick and they put some moss on my head, or when I got a leaf out the garden or something like that, and boiled it and took my fever out. Oh yeah, they were doing stuff like that.
Yeah, and you made it.
We didn't have the resources to go to the hospital.
That's right.
Where you think we got those 360s from? We made
Yeah.
that up.
Yeah,
They took it now they sell it in CVS.
That's right.
And it's nasty.
I don't care. But we got castor oil every year. So what I'm saying is we have to do our own doctoring. But when those remedies no longer, you know, could serve a purpose, then we didn't have the facilities. But in this, you know, it's back then when the governors asked and said, you know, the hospitals were overflowing, the federal government, you know, they launched that act and the federal government went to work and they were building those hospitals in those communities for that overflow. They could have built that hospital, you know, in South Dallas. They could have built it up. It'd have been done like that.
They could have had better testing supplies. What? Okay, it's a bait and switch. You brought up a good point. The bait and switch. I'm talking about masks, so I'm not talking about testing. I'm talking about open and closing, but I'm not talking about testing. I'm saying we've been bamboozled again because at the end of the day, none of this is gonna matter because the virus is not going anywhere.
It's not going nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not going nowhere. And you know what? It may not. The thing is, when you have the flu, I've been in church where people came to church with the flu, and they were sneezing. You kind of stayed away from it. You said, "Bless you, baby, bless you." Ain't no bless you in coronavirus.
No,
It's get away from me
no,
Mm-hmm.
because because I get the flu. There's a vaccine, or I get a flu shot, and I stay in the house 2 days, drink me some liquids, and most likely I recover, and I go back to work and say, "Yeah, man, I had the flu."
right,
I don't want coronavirus because I don't want to be on a ventilator.
right,
I don't want them talking about my lungs about to collapse
right,
and me in there 3 or 4 weeks. And people
right.
talking about, I never heard people say about the flu, I caught the flu and I wouldn't wish this on my dog.
Right.
I never
Right.
seen people say that.
No. You raised some good points, and I think that's why it's going to be the messengers that y'all are doing that basically we got to go church to church, community to community, and right now we're so fragmented on getting the information out. I can't speak for what the other cultures are doing. I can only speak for what traditionally African Americans have done. We've gone to the clubs, we've gone to the restaurants. There's an education opportunity for us, but yet we don't do it. And so therefore they're not going to listen. Because let me say this, if they don't see us out there, they're not finna listen to us.
Right.
Right. And what I'm saying is, the protests trumped everything. So
Yeah.
they wasn't, they wore a mask, uh, but people were so angry. They weren't even listening to that. Even though they went out with masks, they didn't want to hear it because, what was at stake at that time, was our life. And I hear people talk about, we had thought about having somebody on for Black Lives Matters, but and I wanted to, when it first came out, I used to say, okay, what are they talking about? I knew people were getting killed, but what is the, what's the purpose in it? No, but now I know. And the thing about Black Lives Matters is it's about Black life,
Right.
because the Black life that we are struggling with is
Mm-hmm.
causing Black lives. The
Mhm.
the restraints that they have us in, or the chokehold or on our neck, that Black life, the inequities, no health care,
Right.
poor education, Black
Right.
life.
Right.
We got, when you start, I know protesting on Black lives, but Black life is our problem.
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
That's
I
what
think
that's what our problem is. That's why we have this problem when we talking about with the police. It's Black life,
right.
because you are assuming things into our culture, and you think that we're the problem of it when there's systemic racism in it. So
Right.
we're gonna have to change Black life too.
Well, we
And
gotta
that's what
move.
you're talking about. You got to go to
Yeah.
legislators, you got to get involved, you got to vote, you got to change Black life.
Well, and we gotta get. I noticed when and Fred Jones can tell you when we go on Thursdays and volunteer, we got more whites and South Dallas volunteering than African Americans. Black Lives Matter is just not a protest march. It's doing something in our community. I don't need anybody to tell me to pick up the trash out of my yard. But the key is you got a lot of seniors who need our help. The key point is that just like with COVID-19, Carol started out by asking the question, how's our young people? We got to connect with them. We got to have a conversation with them. And then they got to do peer to peer. Contact tracing. Here's a good example. All the African Americans who are out here who are unemployed, they could have just got out of college, they could hire 200 African Americans who just come out of college as contact tracers. I didn't hear nobody do that. I'm saying this is not only to help your community, but also get a paycheck. So
Right.
in this scenario, we're missing the point because we focus on the governor and what they're doing at 45. I'm not concerned with what these people are talking about. Cure Act is putting a lot of money in our community and it's going underutilized, just like y'all's program. That could be funded through Cure Act. Oh, I'm saying it could be discussed and possibility. I don't know because I haven't seen the boilerplates, but I want to point out that there is money out here, but we're not going after it. But the black press put out the PSAs, but man, I wouldn't put out one PSA if they can't contract with me to do services, to put an ad in my newspaper. I just think that's ridiculous, and I think it's an insult to you, for any of us to listen to them on one end and they give the money to somebody else. That's the Harlem Globe concept. You do the show and we walk off with the money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I call it the athlete concept.
Yeah,
Is that you fill my building.
right.
That's all you do. You fill my building. And when you can't perform no more, I'm gonna draft somebody else to fill my building.
That's right. So
That's
y'all
all
raise
it
it
is. It's a monopoly game.
right. And
Because
so
you don't own it when you get through. You don't own the building. All you do is fill it.
this virus is deadly. We talked about over almost 100, 90 something African Americans who've already died. and will die. You had 20 deaths today, I believe. And so we're going to see more deaths. What more do we have to say? But we have to do that person-to-person contact. The churches that are open, reopen. Did anybody reach out to them to say, did you follow the CDC guideline? I'm going to say to you, I seen some churches never shut down. So,
Right.
That's true, they
And
did.
we're not going to see, because we're going to get ready to take a break, and then we're going to go into our other show. But the thing I want to leave with you is that we're talking about coronavirus right now. But the last show, a statement that I made is we're not going to see the repercussions of this until about a year or two, because the people that are dying, some of them were the household providers. Some of them was the man that had the job, and now the woman is out by herself with her kids.
good point.
It was other people that died. They died and had homes. So now the family can't come together to pay their taxes to get the home. What's going to happen? They're going to take it. We're going to lose assets.
That's right.
If we die in numbers, we're going to lose assets. That's what's going to happen. And some of these kids are going to fall into poverty. Because now your kids got, your mama died. Now your kids got to go to your aunt that already have 3 kids. There's no life insurance policy. There's no follow-up revenue. Now this person here has 6 kids. We're not going to see the devastation until about 2 years.
Well, I'll get out the way. I see you got Mary Davis coming up, so I'll get out the way.
You don't have to go anywhere. You can stay.
I got this heavyweight coming.
You don't have to go anywhere. You can stay. You can stay, and then maybe y'all can talk together.
Because like I say, this subject here, we're going to have to double down on it.
Yeah. So
this is we're not doing a show for commercials and all that kind of stuff. We talking about a message. We're talking about a message, and we have to have men that are doing their perspective from different places. Mm-hmm. And they got to witness together on this. This not a one-man rodeo show. Everybody has to get in here and to tell the truth from their perspective of what they see. Because if it's a book, I see my side, but I can't see your side unless you tell me what's over there.
That's right.
So don't go anywhere.
So we're gonna take a break.
Mr. Zach is gonna stay with us.
Yeah, we're
gonna talk to a gentleman coming up next after this break.
Okay, we'll be right back. So y'all hold on. We'll be right back in a couple of minutes. Set up our next guest.
Older adults and people of any age who have serious underlying medical conditions may be at higher risk for severe complications from COVID-19. This group includes people 65 years and older, people who live in a nursing home or long-term care facility, and people of all ages with underlying medical conditions, which include those with chronic lung disease and moderate to severe asthma, people who have serious heart conditions, those with severe obesity or a body mass index of 40 or higher, people with diabetes, those with chronic kidney disease undergoing dialysis, and people with liver disease, and people who are immunocompromised, including those going through cancer treatment, smokers, transplant patients, those with poorly controlled HIV or AIDS, and those who experience prolonged use of corticosteroids or other immune-weakening medications. If you are at higher risk for severe illness from COVID-19, take actions to reduce your risk of getting sick. Have supplies on hand. Take everyday precautions like washing your hands with soap and water. Avoid travel. Stay home as much as possible. Avoid all cruise and non-essential travel. And have a plan for if you get sick. If you have symptoms like fever, cough, and shortness of breath, call your doctor. Call 911 if you have emergency warning signs, including difficulty breathing, persistent pain or pressure in the chest, new confusion or inability to wake, or bluish lips. To learn more, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19 or coronavirus.gov. Let's work together to protect ourselves, our families, and our communities. Thank you.
Okay, we're back. And this is my better half.
Unplugged.
And we're out of our studio home.
Yes.
And we just had a wonderful interview with
Mr. Zachary Thompson, former DHHS.
And seriously, we want you all to know that when we're doing this interview, this is something me and my wife wanted to do. My better half is committed to talking about the better half of your life. A lot of things that happened in the past. It doesn't mean that we can't live out a great life, in our second half. So we can do better than what we're doing. So you always want to keep that in mind. You can do better than you did yesterday. So always keep advancing yourself. So that's what my better half, it's about. It's about looking inside yourself and then bringing out the better you.
But we also want to bring you correct information. We want to be your go-to people that you can come to us and say, hey, they giving us the real information. There's no fake news, none of that. All this is coming from the people who know what they're talking about. And with that being said, we're going to bring on our next guest, who is Marlin's city manager. And he is well known across the state of Texas as a community trailblazer. So this is going to be none other than the Honorable Cedric Davis, the senior. Wait a minute, let me call it Cedric Davis Senior because he has a son too. So I want to put that title behind his name. The city manager of Marlin. Welcome, Mr. Cedric Davis.
Is, make you all visual. A lot of times I've been down here going on 10 years. I didn't know who Zachary Thompson was, and so I think that a lot of times we need to know our officials because sometimes, we're geared on having one leader.
Right.
And we still have a ghost leader, that hasn't been with us since the 60s, and we're still relying on that. And so right now we don't necessarily who are our leaders. I think we have a lot of them now.
Yeah.
And we need to put them on stage.
Yeah. So
to say this is somebody, who is paving the roads for the people that's coming behind them. But we'll never know because the news is going to put you out there maybe 10 minutes or something like that. And we'll never know what you've done until they lay you horizontally. Then we'll hear everything that you did,
Because what people might not know about Honorable Cedric Davis Sr. is that he was the first African-American mayor of Box Spring, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And also he was the first African-American Texas gubernatorial candidate to finish within the top 3 primary finishes of the Texas political party.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't know that.
I came in third in the governor's race in 2018, and that was running against Governor Abbott, but I was running in the Democratic primary, and like I said, I'm the first African American to finish that high up. Any primary.
That's where I remember you from.
Yeah.
That's where I remember you from. I remember that race.
I was crisscrossing the Texas. The name of my campaign was Real Talk.
Yeah.
That's where I remember you from. Yeah.
So what's going on down there in Marlin, Texas?
Other than them trying to lynch me, hang me, drag me.
Okay, well, you know what? I tell you what, because we always talk about humble beginnings. That's what my wife, tries to talk about credential. But since we are making some strides now, and people don't understand, you're protesting to make advancement, but that advancement, people just don't know when you advance up into those corridors that you wasn't allowed in.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to have some Jackie Robinson spirit
Yes.
to get in there. You think it's gonna turn over? No, it's not gonna turn over. So since we have a lot of people, African Americans who will become mayors, become governors in places where it was just unthought of back then. How hard is it when you come in to take those seats?
Well,
We did a show on race last month, and I had a friend of mine and a white gentleman from Abilene, and we have candid talk. We don't get into the politics of it. We wanted to talk about you live on this street and I live on this street and what happened. So in Marlin, so when you come in, because you go through Box Springs, and you come and you run and it's against you. So we want to talk about how do you get that courage, and then the other thing we want to talk about is, since you become a prominent figure in Marlin, what are they scared of?
Yeah, that's what we're
well,
looking at.
well, first of all, you got to have the heart. You have to be prayed up and believe in your faith that's God given.
Right.
You have to be able to articulate the issues and stand firm on the issues and fight for those issues. In Marlin, I believe it's not, like I said, it's just a handful that are still stuck in that 125-year-old mindset. One, that's what I call old money. Old money controlled so much power for so long, and now that they see themselves losing grasp of that old money, they see themselves losing being the dominant, or in their mindset, the supreme race. They fear that potential loss instead of embracing the fact that America was supposed to be a melting pot. You know, so by rejecting that theory, even though that's what it was supposed to be founded on, but they reject that theory, and they fearful of losing what in their mindset is the supremacy. And I think that's what the fear is, that that the minority is gonna take something from them.
So what do you think they trying? What you always talk about besides them trying to lynch you down there? What are you doing down there to make them feel that way?
Well, they actually
Yeah.
I fight.
Yeah. And that's the thing, that comes with it. So when we talk about, we want change, where you're gonna come up against it's either going to be an unstoppable force meeting an unmovable object. So you know, somebody is gonna collide. And so the thing is that when you become, have those positions, you have access.
Right.
You can look at documents that you couldn't see before. And you can find out things that are wrong and things that are not fair and things that they will get away with and then just go ahead and file it somewhere in file Z, and you will never know because you didn't have the money to go to court to fight the system anyway.
Right.
And you would just let it go. So you don't want representatives in there because you can't get away with what you've been getting away with and then turn it over generationally to your own people.
Sure.
So it can stay the way it is. So as long as they kept you at bay, they can keep turning that thing over. My daughter had graduated uh, last year, and we went to the commencement. And so I'm at the commencement. I'm not gonna tell you what school it is, but she graduated. So I'm watching. There is the dean gets up, and everybody's coming across the stage, and they say, Sally Jeffries, the dean's wife. She comes across and she gets her degree. And then the next is his niece. And then the next is his daughter. And then the next is his friend. I say they just inherited a university. They just inherited a university. And my daughter graduated with honors, but I just say they just inherited a university. You finna get a job.
Right.
But they finna get this university. Because you can best believe that he was at home tutoring his wife to take over his spot.
Yeah.
And that's the way it happens. And most nationalities do that anyway. Jews do it, Hispanics do it, white people do it. It's just us.
But
We got,
in that perspective, yes, majority that's the way it's been. But that's the way when they took us from our native land, they instilled that into us. Like we
right,
wasn't supposed to read or write. They told us this is the way it's going to be. So
right.
they broke up the ideology of us passing the legacy on to our offsprings.
Mm-hmm.
So then, if you look in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, they started breaking up the homes.
Right.
Dad became a mother raising a man child, the female child. Father was on the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
Then
She wouldn't get this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You
That's
will
it.
piss off if you bring him in.
That's it. There was a
Right.
check versus your husband.
That's right.
What they gave the husband to keep him from going back to the wife and saying, okay, I'll work instead of the check was drugs. They inundated the minority and poor neighborhoods, let the drugs come in, then do law enforcement, and then now you're hooked. But then when it got out of control, they started hitting their neighborhoods. Oh, we got to do criminal justice.
Pass some legislation,
Yeah.
because this is epidemic.
That's what happened. They couldn't control the spread. The spread got out of control.
Right.
So what legacy do we as African American leave? And that's why I always preach to the younger generation. And I always try to enlighten them on things because they're coming after me. Now, should there have been people before me that groomed me? It should have been more than what it was, but it was only a handful because only a handful were opened up to those doors.
Right.
When they got there, did they reach back and teach the younger generation, my generation? Most of them didn't. I'm just calling it 100 because, I got a history telling it like it is. That's why I called it real talk.
Right.
They didn't. They were more of this mindset, I got mine, you get yours. Instead of grooming me and other people like me for when they leave. Now, that's why you see in Congress, you'll see all these people will sit 30, 40 years.
Right. And nobody, no proteges.
Yeah. But I can guarantee you on the white side, they have groomed someone to take their place after 30 years.
Yeah. Because you can best believe the Kennedy is going to stay in politics.
Thank you. That's a perfect example.
They're going to stay in politics.
Kennedy. Somewhere you're gonna find a Rockefeller somewhere. You're gonna find
right.
Yeah. It's It's the legacy.
It's the legacy. Yeah. So that, and that's the thing, I try to have with these shows. I want, like you said, real talk. I want people to know, because now everybody, is trying to research. Even our white brethren, they're trying to research. I didn't know that was happening. I thought you all were just whining. I didn't know that was happening. That's why you see a lot of these white people in the marches, because they're just not. The internet served its purpose, and I think it stopped a lot of assassinations, because America used to keep its dirty laundry domestically.
Right.
They didn't want you on the international stage talking about what was going on in America. That's why when them guys went to the Olympics and put them black fists up with them gloves, I said, "Oh no, you're not fixing to show this." That's the same thing with Malcolm X. He going over. You're not going to go internationally and tell people that we're a bad nation over here.
Right.
But now they can't stop it, because these kids put these phones up and they sharing that stuff all over the world. So now all eyes on America. They got to do something. So that system now, they can make all the threats they want. They got the phones.
Like I said, one of the key things is minorities been getting killed for decades. But what happened in this situation with George Floyd was not just America, but the entire world watched a murder go down live. And it was more people so appalled about the fact that a murder, so-called legalized murder, actually happened, and they saw it with their eyes. They didn't get the news 2 months later, 3 months later. Let's look at the young lady that was the EMT.
Answer this for me. Why do you think? Because I can go on the internet and find all kind of people that got killed, and it was filmed. I can pull that up everywhere. Internet, people getting actually shot down, China and all that kind of stuff. Why did George Floyd spark this revolution when there's other people who got killed by police that's on tape too? So why did George? What do you think George Floyd? Why did it touch so many people?
It touched so many people. I'm gonna tell you why it touched so many. What I really
because they thought better. We were better. And the world thought we were better than that.
Well, they thought that, but I think more so what happened with George Floyd, the younger generation. It was the younger generation that galvanized this, man. I'm telling you, the movement, if you look at the age of these, from teenagers up to about 30 years old, that's the majority of the people that started marching and protesting, and they came out in groves and they shared, because they actually saw a murder happen, and then they saw young people reaching out. It was a young man that was filming it, young man in his 20s, I believe. He was filming it, and he was begging other young folks to help, say something, call somebody to do something. Then you had a young nurse saying, "Hey, let me check his pulse." So you had this younger generation of people that was actually trying to reach out to help, and the law enforcement didn't allow them to help. So they didn't raise the young people. So that's why I've been always telling people, the young people, the next generation, people think they're a bunch of do-nothings, and a lot of them do nothing, but there are more good people that are younger that's willing to stick their neck out and be warriors. And that's what it is. Basically, that warrior movement and that warrior mentality grew around the world because they shared information on all sorts of social medias.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what sparked.
Yeah, and now they have a we're through with the hell. We're through with this mentality.
Mm-hmm.
We're not putting up with this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what sparked that. Believe me, it wasn't people in my age bracket.
Right.
No.
People that were younger.
But how do since I know they're waiting for the verdicts, the verdicts will wind up sparking this thing again, and that's why we had Zachary Thompson on because we'll get some court or verdict come up or something like that. We'll be back into the street into a middle of a pandemic that's on the surge, and it's going to take a back seat again, and we're going to be out there again. So how do we challenge that? And then the other thing is, how do we challenge it? Because there's an election coming. How do we challenge it? In our legislature. How do we challenge that?
Well,
Because our feet gonna get tired. It's gonna be hot. But how do we channel that into?
Well, here in Texas, a couple of things. Here in Texas, you got the legislation coming up in January. So right now is when you need to be writing all these bills, contacting all your sitting legislators, and bombard them with all these different bills. Okay? Because the more bills you submit to them, and if they put them forward, something's got to come out off the table. Something's going to fall through. Also, in November, when you go to vote for your president, you can't go. Let's look at when we voted for what was it, 2016 election. They were voting for the dead gorilla that got shot at the Dallas Zoo. What was his name? Jabari or something. They were doing write-ins.
Jabari.
Yeah, Jabari and stuff like that. That's who they were doing write-ins for, and all sorts of stuff. These ends and this and that, just craziness, because they didn't like neither candidate, and they stayed home, or they wrote in just craziness. You can't do that now. You found out what that cost you. That silliness cost you basically 3.5 years of suffering. Because if, like Donald Trump said, what do you have to lose? Well, one, I'm losing money because the economy ain't moving the way it should have been. And when you get that stimulus, it sure didn't affect me. It affected the rich people.
Yep.
Two, you go to court just recently to do away with Obamacare. Right. But you tell everybody that, oh, you love it, but yet no, you go to court to try to say it's unconstitutional. So behind closed doors, you're trying to do away with that. So basically, they need to ask themselves now, how better off are you from 3.5 years ago? And I don't think you're very good. You got a pandemic going on, COVID-19. Right. Your movement is limited. Your education and your learning is limited. Your wage earning is limited. So am I better off? No. So that tells me I don't need to write in Jabari and these ends and all sorts of other craziness. I need to write in Joe Biden. I need to write in Senator Royce West. I need to write in anybody that can fight my battle. That here's
and we need to know, because when we voted last time, you have those names there. Most times people go in there, they one tally. Okay, let me vote who's the president. But they don't know the judges.
Right.
They don't know, and see, a lot of times in other communities, those judges come out and they have gatherings, they have little get-togethers where the community knows them. They got their, names in the yard and all that kind of stuff. They become family members almost. Right. And that's how they stay in office a lot.
But see, our people, they come out only one time, and that's when it's time to vote. And people don't know who they are. So I'm with him. I want to see my representative come out now. Like, they got early voting going on right now. For what is it for?
For the U.S. Senate, early Senate.
Yes, they have that going on, but I don't even know who's running. You know why? Because nobody has come out into the community and say, hey, I'm running for this. Don't wait till the last minute to tell me you're running. I need to know that in advance, because I was getting ready to go vote yesterday, and I was like, wait a minute, who's running? So I had to put it off so I can come and see, look it up to see who's running.
Yeah. And they need to read up on each one of the candidates, see the experience, see what have they done for people.
Yeah.
See, a lot of times, they'll businessman or businesswoman, oh, they got all this money, so they must really know how to run something because they rich. No,
That don't mean
Yeah.
nothing.
don't mean nothing.
And,
Got
and
got out and done something for the people that's middle class, poor folks, people in caught in the middle. Have they done anything for those people? What have they done for education? What have they done for health care? Look at the history. We'll use like Mr. Zach, for example. Long time he knows health. That he's sat as the health director for Dallas County for major years. Prior to that, he was in that profession for major years. So he knows what is needed for his health wise to keep people safe or to control like we have now, pandemic. He knows how to attack those issues. So that's what people got to look at. What do these people bring to the table? You know, and Donald Trump was an experiment. Everybody knew it. So now we got a taste of it. And do you still want more of it, or do you want less of it?
So that's what we want to know. How they going to handle? Did they pass the mail-in ballots, or they
No,
still going to make
not in
everybody
Texas.
go?
No, the
Not
Texas
in
Supreme
Texas.
Court did not. So the only way you can get a mail-in ballot if you're legitimately sick, and you have to be able to show that you're sick, ill, or have something that prevents you from going to the
disability or
ballot
something
box.
like that. Yeah.
Yes. Just because you have the fear of COVID does not get you a mail-in ballot. You know?
Yeah, but if it's enough to make me shake and be scared, I ain't going.
Okay. I'll tell you what.
That's why that's a big thing of voter suppression.
Right.
Yeah.
If they make you fearful,
Yeah.
if they make it more difficult, if they limit your polling places, and if they want to make you show all these tremendous IDs or different variants, they won't accept this particular one, but accept this one. It's man-made hurdles to prevent you from going voting. And I'm gonna show you something. If you notice, normally when it's raining, normally around election time, it's either
Right.
or
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
So how many people gonna go out in the cold or the drizzle and rain, fight Corona to go vote? So you already then suppressed or put a hurdle so somebody can't climb over it, and that's
right.
So,
but see, I tell you what, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll come back, and I want to see if Mr. Thompson is still on. But when we come back, I want to talk about voting, just like you said, about through a pandemic,
and get both of y'all opinion on that.
Okay.
Okay.
So
good.
One minute. We'll be right back.
Ooh, ice cold. Freeze pop.
Are you looking to lose weight, detox your body, build your immune system, and boost your metabolism? Or do you lack energy throughout the day? Maybe you need more focus and mental clarity. Or maybe you're just looking to find ways to combat against health issues such as anxiety, headaches, muscle and nerve pain? Well, TLC is the place to be. And if none of those pertain to you, I'm here to tell you that everyone should be detoxing, no matter who you are. I'm Eudora Barnes, a personal distributor with Total Life Changes, and our products are just that, life-changing. Contact me today and let's discuss the various products containing hemp extract that are available in assisting with becoming a healthier you. The number is 469-783-4046. You can also email me your questions to eudorabarnes@yahoo.com or follow me on Instagram @Heiress of God, and that is HEIRESS_of_God. Talk to you soon.
All right, we're back, and we have Mr. Thompson with us also. So we're gonna double down on what we're talking about, and we've been talking about the election and going through an election. through the coronavirus.
My better half, Kevin Casiva, Unplugged.
All right. Mr. Thompson,
Yes, sir.
we just talked about the election that is coming up.
And voter suppression.
And we talked about voter suppression, and we talked about, Mr. Davis talked about, during that time, and during that time, especially November, that is the beginning of our cold season. Generally, Tuesdays, for some reason, it's always bad weather, it's raining.
Yeah.
And trying to get people out, during that time is bad enough. But because of the suppression of voting now and the limited places, precincts to vote, how are we going to restructure people to go out and vote this time?
Well, I think Mayor Davis put it in perspective. I think one of the things we got to do is get ready to vote and take our precautions. Make sure you're taking your hand sanitizer. The biggest thing, we got to vote. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Whether they allow us, as he pointed out, they struck down the ability of who can do the mail-in voting, only those who have issues. But I'm not going to let anything deter me from voting. And so it's COVID-19. Hopefully the election administrators have done their due diligence on sanitizing the area. And then we should be able to take our hand sanitizer and be able to make sure that we're ready to go in. But nothing should deter us from exercising our right to vote. It's a challenging aspect. But I'm going to say this, those who want to see the status quo, they want us to be afraid and not vote.
Right.
And so I don't want to get caught up in that. So if I got to wear a spacesuit, as you pointed out in there, to vote, then that's what I'm going to do. So, hey, coronavirus, it might be something, but it ain't like when they had the dogs and the water hoses and the billy clubs.
Yeah.
Remember, most of the people who handle the voting at those places, average age is almost like 55.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time when they did the voting, they didn't have but a few. A lot of them were scared about contracting it, and they didn't have. So are they going to go about training people as substitutes?
Yeah, they've done it. But let me point out, that's why I do early vote. I don't remember you're right, on the day of the election, since they did early voting, I've never been there. Early voting is the key. And I know some black people I like to go on the day of the election. That's fine. But that old saying is, I want to already, in case I die for the election date, I want early voting already in.
Yeah. Because I don't believe this election is going to be like the ones before. You will get your answer probably about midnight who the winner is. I think there's going to be a problem, and we won't know who won for weeks. Because all we have to do is have one malfunction.
Office. They may have to get the National Guard to remove him if we lose.
I'm just saying that is a real possibility that cause especially in mail-ins, it's gonna take a while to count those. Yeah. But if you don't have the manpower, to conduct the election at the voting booth, and if it comes in late, then somebody's going to sue. Somebody's going to sue, and if they sue, you're not going to have the results because there's a lawsuit now. Because you're going to figure somebody tampered with something, or it was some fishy going on. Somebody's going to sue. So we don't have it where people just go out and get it done. And I think we need to stage this thing for early voting. Right. You need to be pushing the first day. You need to push it like in this election.
Right.
You need to push it like it's November 6th.
Right.
So you won't have that overflow, because they will shut it down at 7 that night. And all the people be banging on the door like they were
in Minneapolis.
That's right.
Kentucky. I'm sorry, Kentucky.
So what do you think, Mr. Davis?
That's very true, because they do that in Texas too. If at 7 o'clock they're gonna shut it down unless someone go file a complaint or an injunction. Other than that, they don't care if you're in that building or not. So
Right.
what I do encourage everybody, like Mr. Zach said, have your gloves, have your hand sanitizer, have your mask, have your cold weather gear if necessary, have everything ready. Because what they're gonna do is make you stand in that line for hours to just
Right. Because remember, you're in the United States.
Yep.
We have a variety of weather. It'll be sunny in Florida, but you might have torrential rain in another city.
Right.
So you can't depend on that day because there's nothing else follows that day.
Yeah, I like that. I like the early vote. Like the early vote.
Me too. I think that's the best way to do it is do early voting.
Right.
Okay,
That
if
way,
you got any kind of illness, you won't be subjected to anything else.
right. And you've already got that vote. Your vote is counted. And what I'm going to encourage everybody and say, people want to always say my vote don't count. Your vote is critical. It is critical. This election is not like any other election in our country's history. The last major one was the Civil Rights Movement Act. That was the last major critical one. You know, well, let's say Obamacare was a critical too. But in this lifetime, this one, you need to vote like your life depended on it because it just may depend on it. Because the way I look at it, I think they're trying to push this country to a civil war. Where it'll be fought on our land, civil war between neighbors. So that's why I said this election is truly critical. You know. So
yeah, and like I said, we have a civil unrest during the election. We don't have enough police to police that.
Nope.
Because all they need is a distraction somewhere, you know, and we have a problem. But Mr. Thompson,
yes, sir.
Because of the problem we have with guidelines, right now because it's critical. Instead of making fines, for businesses, 10 days suspension of your license and 15 days and 30 days. Why can't Congress pass an ordinance or a law like they did with car seats, like they did with smoking, like they did with no weapons and liquid going through the airlines, like they talked about driving with open containers, because those things were geared to saving lives. So what's wrong with this?
Well, you're talking about Congress. You might pass something in the House and never get the Senate. Whatever you're trying to do, you won't get out the Republican Senate. The Democrats control the House, so you could probably get it passed through the House. So the Senate will be shot down. That's it. When you look at that, we got what is it? One African American that's in the Senate side. I think he's a Republican, maybe another, but I know we got Tim Scott, I believe. Yeah. Other than that, and if Ross get in there, that's going to be the key.
Okay, we had a.
Yeah. Well, let me take a shot at that. Why? Okay.
Yeah.
I believe the reason. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. The reason is because of the way they say in the Constitution, you shall not infringe on the right. So you have the freedom to move about and do certain things. For a fact, we just dealt with this tonight in my workshop. I finished up. We passed our executive order requiring the use of masks down here in this area. Well, a lot of people don't want to wear it because it says, I choose what I put on my face. The Constitution says they have a right to choose whatever they want to wear. So that's why Congress leave it to the local entities, because they don't want to take on that fight of infringing up on those constitutional rights. So they're saying we'll leave it to local control because the local knows what the local needs. So that's why you won't. It's probably going to be rare that you see a blanket across the nation executive order telling them that they have to put on that mask. So that's why you'll get the kickback from certain entities. Oh, illusion.
One thing to that, everybody, the urban county and I just have to be frank, and Mayor Davis knows this. The Republicans are not concerned about the urban counties. They want outside the urban counties.
Mm-hmm.
That's where your challenge is.
Yeah.
But once you pass Bucky's out of Dallas and Mesquite, it's all over, buddy.
Yeah.
They run it. They run. That's why if you notice, when you talk about Congress, when you talk about the local and the state, and and I hate to see that black could occur less outside Dallas, Houston, or any urban county. There's one precinct in Dallas County that outvotes all the black precincts together in Dallas. And I don't know about North Park Mall.
Oh,
Let me see what's going on.
okay, I tell you what, we're breaking up right now. Let me give
Yeah.
a moment straight in there because we're breaking up. So we'll take a minute break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Ooh, ice cold. Freeze pop.
Are you looking to lose weight, detox your body, build your immune system, and boost your metabolism? Or do you lack energy throughout the day? Maybe you need more focus and mental clarity. Or maybe you're just looking to find ways to combat against health issues such as anxiety, headaches, muscle and nerve pain? Well, TLC is the place to be. And if none of those pertain to you, I'm here to tell you that everyone should be detoxing, no matter who you are. I'm Eudora Barnes, a personal distributor with Total Life Changes, and our products are just that, life-changing. Contact me today and let's discuss the various products containing hemp extract that are available in assisting with becoming a healthier you. The number is 469-783-4046. You can also email me your questions to eudorabarnes@yahoo.com or follow me on Instagram @Heiress of God, and that is HEIRESS_of_God. Talk to you soon.
Mr. Zachman.
All right, we're back. Boy, having technical difficulties tonight. So we didn't get all of what you said a few minutes ago, and I think we really need to hear that. About the voting and through the pandemic and how we really need to stage this just in case, whether it's weather or whether there's some sort of interruption. We need to make sure that everybody's vote is counted.
Well, like I said earlier, be prepared. If that means rain gear, pop-up chairs, water, your mask, your hand sanitizer, your gloves. Look at it like this here. Imagine that you going to battle, and you need to take your battle gear with you. So I'm asking everybody to look at it as I'm going into battle and I'm taking my battle gear because the enemy don't want me to vote, and I'm going to make it across that plain to vote to victory. So be battle ready. So when you come out there, you can actually say I voted and I'm battle tested. So make sure you have your hand sanitizer, your gloves, your mask on. Take your pop-up chair. Take some water and snacks. Rain weather gear. If it's warm, just have the rain weather gear there just in case. Because in Texas, weather change one way 1 minute and different the next. So just be prepared because they're trying to stop you from voting. So be prepared to stay in long lines because that's how they stop you and discourage you from going there to cast that ballot. So just be prepared and just put yourself into a soldier mindset.
So do you know when early voting is starting, Mr. Davis?
Yes, it's I think it started yesterday, the 29th, and it will run through July 14th.
And you say that is for the who?
That's the primaries, those runoff primaries that are still pending.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. And right now in the U.S. Senate, that's key. That would be between Miss Hager, her name is Hager, and Senator Royce West, which that's going to be a critical one. So
Right.
people need to definitely vote it down because whoever wins that race will take on John Carney.
Uh-huh.
That's who, and John Carney is vulnerable and can lose. But you got to have a strong candidate to beat him.
Right.
I'm a Democrat, but I in that race, I like Senator West because, like I said, he's known me since I was 8 years old. He's been a longtime mentor, political mentor, just somebody that I've grown up knowing. Also, he's a Wilma Hudson alum, and all the other people that's running support blue, guys. Support blue, and that's all I can tell you. Do the research on your candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe in this race. Let's see, you have someone running for the Texas Supreme Court. Her name is Kathy Chang. I've known Kathy when I was running for governor. I met her back on the trail back in 2017. Man, when I tell you, she's Vietnamese, grew up poor, put herself through law school, beautiful soul. And she has given hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of free legal to, minorities. So she would definitely be a great justice. So these are people I know personally. So that's why I'm telling you. And if they were no good, I'll tell you that too. But believe me, I would. I ain't shy.
Yeah, some people camouflage under another party when they can't get votes, but they still have the same mentality.
Yeah. And it's like when I ran, I ain't gonna lie, I got Democrat, Republican, and Independent votes because I look at it this way: I judge character and the moral of a person. I think the reason why our country is broken down because if you notice, the R's and the D's can't communicate.
Right.
And that's proven every day when you look at CNN News and MSNBC. They don't talk to each other. So, but it's us that's suffering.
Right.
So we have to send a loud message that, you know what, we're tired of suffering. We're gonna do something. We're gonna get new people. And that's what I'm telling you. Everybody vote new. Vote new.
Yeah, you have new blood in there now.
Yeah.
You have new blood in there. So we're gonna get ready to close our show. And but first of all, we want to really thank you.
Well, I appreciate it.
Because our show, what we want to do is we really want to have, city officials,
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. Let me tell you something. In about 60 days, I'm going to announce if I'm gonna run for governor or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You come on here because, like I said, if you need real talk.
Yeah, I told you that's what I love. I love real talk, and I got
my
team. My team's been asking, okay, are we gonna do this? Are we gonna run one more time? Do you have one more run in you? It takes a lot to run a statewide race like that. It takes a lot out of it.
I know Beto O'Rourke, he had to go a lot. You gotta have some energy to do that.
Yeah, he has a lot. He's a good person. I crisscrossed with him about for 2 years, so he's a good person. I'm gonna make that decision. I'm gonna talk to people. If people like Beto gets into the race, or if people like the Castro brothers gets into the race, more than likely I'm going to support one of them because I know they got the firepower, the energy, and they can raise the funds.
Right.
So I'm a realist. I got to look at that.
Right.
Last year I came in 3rd place as a school teacher, which I was like Victor Morales, which he's a good friend of Victor Morales, and that's rare. So that was God sent. God allowed me to be on that platform. So I'll let everybody know in about 60 days.
Okay.
If I'm going to run again.
That's good.
And like I say, people right now, we have to profess, our faith because I need somebody that has a conscience.
True.
Has a conscience toward God in what they're doing.
That's it.
Because if you just see what's in it for you at the time, you're a dangerous person for everybody else.
That's true.
Because you'll sell this place out. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking for character. We like to interview people who have characters that we can vouch for.
Yeah.
True.
And say, this person here, is a good candidate. He will, support and be there for the community.
Yep.
So we appreciate you being on our program. We have to do it. We started to do it from our studio home. We have to invest into it, but we want to bring real news
That's it.
to our communities because they're not going to get it anywhere else. So, like I said, in any kind of way that you can, put us out there, support us, and just say, hey, man, if you want to interview a good interview and talk straight, that Kevin Conceivable will do.
And like I said, just follow me on my Facebook. Like I garnered almost 100,000 votes across the state, which that's unheard of for a school teacher. So, but it's grown since then. It's well over 100,000 followers. So, I do have a platform, and believe me, I use it for real talk, no bull crap, for real talk. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you. You had a long bio. You did so much, so it's like I'll just tell what I like the important part, about you being
that's
the
good.
person.
Oh, no, I didn't expect you to read that bio. They put it, man. I don't even go by that bio. That's what they put up on the website because those are accolades. But I'm an old soldier. I've already accomplished those things. That's in the past.
Right.
I'm looking for the future. Whatever I do in the future.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you know what they say? Your works do follow you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. But I got more works to come.
That's right.
Well, we really want to thank you and Mr. Thompson for coming on and talking about some issues that's going on out here today. And like you say, voters, your rights to vote.
Yep.
Remember,
and we will, get the soldier mindset. Voters,
it's here now.
Put on a soldier mindset and be prepared and be ready.
And we get toward the election, we might have to do a show a night.
Okay, I'd love to be invited.
To push these, the people, to vote because I don't know what kind of distraction, whether they'll start sports and they'll forget about everything.
Oh, they're gonna come. Distractions gonna come.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to stay on top of them so we can keep our people informed.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you guys, and it's been a pleasure talking with you, Mayor Davis, because I hadn't seen you in a while, but appreciate you stopping by, and thank you, Zachary Thompson, for stopping by once again and clearing up things about the rise of the COVID-19 again, how it's on the rise, and that the young people need to pay attention. So I guess we will see you guys.
Subscribe to our channel.
Oh, don't forget to like our channel and subscribe on YouTube as well as Facebook. And
we're going to bring you the best shows possible. So just kind of stick with us, share it, tell your friends. My better half.
Unplugged.
Kevin and Conceivable.
Yes.
And
Take care.
We'll see y'all next time.
Thank you, sir. You too. Bye-bye.
Ooh, ice cold. Freeze pop.